Hey guys, my name is Loveless here, and now we are back with Falling in Abstraction. So, we're at chapter 3. This one's going to be a little bit longer, so be prepared. It's probably going to be like over 30 minutes, most likely. We'll see. You wake up with a jolt that hurts. Ugh, time to face the music. You don't really want to open your eyes. Maybe you'll just pretend to be asleep so you can try to process this. Alright, let's get the facts straight first. I fell through my painting. Definitely true. Unfortunately. Fell out of the sky and fucked all my shit up. Ugh, way too true. I'm in Osco Hospital and therefore link on. Not yet proven to be true, but Zane is real. I can't even deny that when I kinda was all over him earlier. Which leads to the logical conclusion that all of them are real. You can't tackle that one just yet. Too soon. Who does all this rationalization in the morning with no coffee even? But it needs to be done. He knows me, or at least my name. He thinks he knows me at least. He seems to care about me anyways. He's a doctor, but doctors aren't usually so casually familiar with patients. Let's leave it at he knows my name. You think you have most of your ducks in order. What you need is proof you're in Lincoln, and then you should be able to try and accept all this as reality. Maybe. And then after that, you'll demand to know how Zane knows you, as he said. You sigh. Maybe you should just go back to sleep. Just as you had that thought, you hear muffled voices at the door, getting progressively louder by the second. I don't give a shit what you have to say to me. I'm going in there right now. More voices replied, but it's too jumbled to decipher. As the door handle turns, you instinctively throw your blanket over your head. No, 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 no. You can't do this. You weren't ready. You were just saying you weren't ready for this. But you already recognize the voices yelling through the door. It opens, and all you hear are a pair of footsteps rushing in, followed by more at a slower pace. You feel a presence and stare on your left side of your bed. It's burning through the blanket like you can see right through it. Xavier. He must have been the one that brought you in. That blond man I saw when I fell. How long can I hide under this blanket? How long are you going to hide under that blanket? He grumbles at you. A whimper of pure anxiety escapes you. As long as I can't see him, he can't be real. I think I'll stay under here for a while, thank you, you blurt out, like the coward you are. I told you she wasn't ready for this. You're on thin ice, Xavier. Zane growls, and a giggle escapes you. Ha! Ice. Good one, Zane. But your giggles seem to have pissed off Xavier. Sophia, take that blanket off your head right now. He grinds through his teeth. Surprise hits you, then anger. You shoot up and the blanket falls onto your lap as you yell and point at one of the handsomest men you ever seen in your life. How do you know my fucking name? You are nearing the complete end of your rope. Honestly, you should stop insulting and yelling at beautiful men when they show up in front of you. But where does he get the right? First of all, no one calls you Sophia. Not even your parents. Except when you're in trouble. So if he wanted to bring out your inner brat, then that's what he'll get. As you glare at him, it truly sinks in. His golden hair was shining, and his blue eyes met your glare with his own. It's truly unfair how hot he is. He looks like an avenging angel. It only made you more pissed. No one should be that hot. It's offensive. I said, how do you know my name? And how did you find me when I fell? How are you... You trailed off. As you notice, it's not just Xavier and Zane in the room. Out of the corner of your eye, you spot a bit of purple movement and stop dead in your tracks. You slowly turn your head to the couch and meeting blue-pink eyes of Raphael. Your eyes are racing around his face, taking in everything. His gorgeous purple hair, his pink lips, and further down, his collarbone peeking out from his white shirt. Raphael's face is neutrally blank, but there's an intensity in his stare. You can't help yourself as your face goes up in flames. You hear a cough from the other direction and almost don't want to look. Sitting in the doctor's stool by the window is none other than Silas. He is unmistakably, he's also fucking huge. They all are, if you're being honest. And his white hair is bright. It almost seems to be glowing in the bright room. You naturally shy away from his gaze, as your brain is already overloaded. As you try to find somewhere to rest your eyes where there isn't a pair looking back at you, you see the tall man next to Silas, with his back turned to you and the shade partly open. The sun lights his brown hair and hits his jacket with blue and orange accents. He isn't facing you, but you recognize him still. Caleb. Your mind goes blank. Over his shoulder is the cityscape. Lincoln's cityscape. Skyscrapers like you've never seen pierce the sky, and roads like multi-level mazes wrap around the city. You can't take your eyes off the view outside the window. A soft exhale escapes you in wonder. You were still holding on to the shred of hope, rationale, that you were still in some fucked up dream. That delusion was now a thing of the past. We know your name because you're ours, Sophie, Silas says. He stated like this was the most obvious thing in the world, and you must be too dumb to live if you haven't caught up yet. You whip your head back in his direction. He's smirking at you like the kitten who got the cream. Slowly and deliberately, you reply in the steadiest voice you can manage. What do you mean, you're Sophie? I can't be her. I'm not even from this plane of existence. I can't be her even if I was. Silas narrows his eyes at you in challenge. Silas? Zane warns, but neither Silas nor you break eye contact. He starts to grab something out of his pocket, and you realize it's a phone. He stalks over to you. When he's standing to your other side of your bed from Xavier, he puts your phone into your hand with a photo album on the screen named Kitten. You quirk your eyebrow at him, and then he shakes his head. You try to push away the phone, and he grabs your hand and forcefully places the phone in it with his own, holding it in place. He opens the album himself while holding it. Inside are a shit ton of pictures. Of you, not the MC you created for the game, but someone who looked exactly like you, except her hair was brown, a very dark brown, like the default hair color that was for cutscenes. You decided you didn't want to see anymore. Okay, she looks like me. You ripped your hand from his. You don't accept this. You weren't there, Sophie. Or whatever. Her hair is a different color, and I wouldn't do half of the stuff that she does. I don't like plushies. They take up too much space, and I would never be a hunter. I'm nonviolent, a huge coward, and squeamish. Besides, I don't notice people are lying to me and just let it go either. I don't have a heart condition, an evol, or an ether core in my heart. I wasn't adopted. I'm a painter, for God's sake. She had no artistic sense. No offense. I'm sure she was great and all, but I'm not her. You huffed in the room in general. The more you think about it, the more embarrassing your little rant gets. You basically just word vomited all over them about the girl they love. You stubbornly stare at your lap, tears starting to flow from your eyes, as you waited for someone to say something. All you feel is the weight of their stares. First of all, your hair is often different colors in different incarnations. Don't get so hung up on the small details. Raphael teases as he rolls his eyes. It's the first thing he has said this whole time, and he's demonstrating the full power of his sassiness. As he opens his mouth to continue, his face turns serious. He stares you down and goes on. If you have different lived experiences than your past life, of course you will be different. But you are still her, and you have her soul. And you clearly have some of her memories if you know so much about her, and apparently us. I don't have her. If you don't have her memories, then how do you know so much about her, and how do you know who we are? Xavier asks. His gaze his gaze has softened since before, but his voice is firm and unrelenting. They aren't giving you any wiggle room. Shit. I don't want to tell them about the game. You decide to keep your mouth shut. They can go fuck themselves. After a minute of silence, Zane speaks up for the first time in a while. Although I don't like the way this is going, and I told everyone to wait here for a more delicate way to broach the subject, he glares around the room before continuing. I would like to hear what you have to say about this. I also have told the others your story about how you got here. Even if you don't believe yourself to be, her, if you give us an explanation of how you know about us, we will give you an explanation as well. Well, fuck. Why does Zane have to be all slick and polite? You weren't sure how to refuse him. Time to drop the bomb, apparently. Before you can think of a diplomatic way to tell them about the game, you word vomit all over them in a rush. In my world, which is definitely not this one, there's a game called Love in Deep Space. You play as the main character, who is a model made after yourself. You play as her from the time she becomes a hunter, after Caleb reveals himself as the Colonel. You can get memory cards to read them about her time and dates with the characters in the game. You guys. Including some of her past lives with all of you. There are mini games and the whole shebang. That's how I know about you guys. I don't have her memories. I just play as her in the game. So, there. Your face had grown redder and redder as you went, your speech getting faster just so you can get all the words out. Then, with all the cards on the table, you finally shut down. After all this bullshit, you literally can't take it anymore. A wave of dizziness hits you, and the lights start to fade. You try to stay upright, but start to list to the side. Hands wrapped around your shoulders, you hear Zane's voice as if it was far away. Then everything blissfully goes dark. Next part. As you wake for the third time since falling out of the sky, the room is mostly dark, with a small table lamp next to the couch providing the only light. Finally, you begin to wonder how much time has passed. All of a sudden, you need to pee so bad, as acknowledging time has woken up your bladder. You move to sit up and feel a tugging sensation in your arm. Like a cheap horror movie protagonist, you turn your head slowly to the right, knowing there's a monster there waiting for you. In your right arm, the one that's not in a chunky brace, is a fucking IV. You immediately turn green. Oh my god, why is it there? Alright, shut up, brain. It's okay. Stop being a little bitch. It's just an IV. You take a deep breath as you can, putting your head far into your lap as you can manage. With a few more deep breaths, you lift your head and start looking around for the call button. There. Nice. It's within reach. You pressed it once, resisting the urge to spam the call nurse button. You put your head back down and continue deep breathing, knowing you have to, or you will most likely pass out again. And you couldn't keep passing out. You needed to take care of some important bodily functions. Within a minute, a knock sounds at the door before opening. It's the nurse from before. Hi, miss. How can I help you? How are you feeling? She asks in a very professional manner. I have to go to the bathroom, but I need help, you say in a sheepish manner. Something about her just made you not want to bother her, but she smiled at you and came around to the bed without complaints. Thank you so much. You searched her name for a tag and found it. Yvonne. Welp. Some things just can't be helped. At least she's nice. Yvonne. You give her the best smile you can muster. Of course, she says politely as she lifts you up under your left shoulder, pulling the IV thingy along with her. Progress to the bathroom was very slow, but making it without falling Without preamble or shame, she sits you right on the toilet. Call me when you're done. I'll be waiting just outside. You nod and refuse to make eye contact. Wow, nurses are so cool. How can she be so nonchalant? You proceed to have the most satisfying piss of all time. I was sure I was about to piss myself. You think to yourself. When you go to finish up, you let out a long groan of dismay. Of all the days to start my period, why is the universe out to get me? You bled through your panties and hospital gown and presumably on the bed sheets. It's so ridiculous that you know crying won't make you feel any better. Hey, Yvonne? You call. Yes? I got my period. I need some tampons and new underwear. Also, can you check the bed to see if I bled on it? I would appreciate that. Oh, no problem, sweetie. Don't worry about a thing. I'll be right back with everything you need. Sit tight. A few minutes later, Yvonne enters the bathroom. Here you go. I got a few pairs of underwear, some socks, and another gown. Do you want to take a sponge bath before you change? I can help you around the wounds first, and then you can finish up on your own, if you want. Looking up at Yvonne's kind face, you start to tear up. Thank you. Yes, I would like to clean up. I must be a mess. It's no problem. You get yourself fixed up, and then I'll be back to help you with the sponge bath. Here. She hands you your supplies and quickly leaves the room again. Thank God for women. Not that you aren't sure the boys would just be as helpful if they were here, but sometimes you just need another woman around in these situations. Plus, Yvonne wasn't trying to convince you that you were her reincarnated soulmate or something. Let's not think about that for a moment. The thought you thought as you gather yourself, time to take care of business. After getting situated, you call Yvonne back in. You undress to your bra and panties, but it couldn't be awkward if you even tried, because Yvonne was a consummated professional. As you sat on the edge of the tub, she cleaned around your wounds on your torso. You finally thought of some practical questions. If you got it out the way before any of the handsome fuckers came back to grill you, you could be more prepared to debate them into the ground. The situation had exacerbated one of your flaws. You were incredibly argumentative. You liked to be right, and you hated to be put in a corner. You didn't exactly blame the boys of thinking what they did, but who gets told they are someone else and accepts it? Even if that means being theirs, which you honestly couldn't deny you would hate, you had nothing else to hold on to. Your whole situation had threw you into a spiral, and if you were sure about anything of who you are, you were Sophie, and you belong to yourself. Hey, Yvonne, how long have I been here since I have been admitted? How long was I out after the fall? I'm having trouble putting the timeline together. Yvonne looked from her work and said matter-of-factly, you were out for 6 hours after you fell and got treatment, mostly because the pain medicines we gave you while we set your bones and stitched you up. Surprisingly, you weren't more hurt after the fall from such a height. You would have easily died. Zane decided to keep you for observation because he wanted to perform some more tests once you woke up. Since then, it's been about 18 hours. You've only been at the hospital for around a day. Whoa. So it hasn't even been that long, with all the passing out and huge revelations. It felt like an eternity. What time is it? You ask. It's 3:45 a.m. She chuckled at your reaction, your face twisted up in horror and shock. Yvonne, why are you working at 3:45 a.m.? Are you crazy? She whispered yelled to her. This breaks her facade of professionalism for the first time, as she lets out a genuine laugh. It's quite all right. Sometimes I pick up night shift. I don't work nearly as much as Dr. Zane. Would you like me to wash your hair? Successfully distracted by the idea of clean hair, you run your hands through it. It's been in a bun, probably by Yvonne when you weren't awake. Yes, please. You pull the hair tie and shake your long hair. As you do, you see over your shoulder. Yvonne? Yes? Has my hair been pink this whole time? Yes? Are you feeling all right? No, I'm fine. My hair just seemed to have decided to change color. Totally fine. You were sitting staring at your hair in your hands. It didn't seem like it changed length, but the ginger hair is not there. It's a warm light pink. If you look closely, you can see the gold strands scattered throughout. Not the gold blonde like Xavier, but metallic gold. It's very subtle as you move your hair side to side under the light. You realize you must get a look at your whole head of hair. Yvonne had not reacted in any big way besides mild concern, so you take cue from her to stay calm. Could you help me get a look at the mirror before you wash it? You asked in a steady voice. You didn't know how you were maintaining. Yes, she said quietly, and she lifted you up by the shoulder over to the sink. Sure enough, your hair was pink. It looked greasy from all the time spent in the hospital, but otherwise pretty. It's your usual length down to your waist, but if you didn't know any better, it looked thicker. You moved your head side to side and switched it to test how it felt. The more you looked at it, the more you noticed that there are some other changes to your appearance. Your eyebrows were pink as well, though you guess that makes sense, but your eyelashes were pitch black, way longer and thicker than usual. As a ginger, you were blessed with pretty much invisible blonde eyelashes. Your skin seemed smooth, and even more than you're used to. You weren't sure how to feel about this. Out of all of the stuff that happened in the last day, this was one of the things that didn't freak you out. Looking at the version of yourself doesn't feel wrong. It feels natural, even if you're surprised. If you didn't take account for your bedraggled state, you looked pretty. You always thought you were pretty. Maybe it was more socially acceptable to not think that way, but it's true. Of course, you had insecurities, but it was more about your height and how people perceived you as younger because of your baby face. That didn't mean it wasn't a cute baby face. You just like to be treated as an adult. You took a deep breath, deciding you were going to roll with the punches. No reason to look a gift horse in the mouth, I guess. I look like I got a serious spa treatment and an expensive hair appointment. This was a change you can accept, even if you couldn't really rationalize why your hair decided to turn pink. For sure needs a wash, you said as you turned to Yvonne. I'll grab the chair and do it for you in the sink, she replied. After getting done with washing your hair and sponging yourself off the rest of the way, you finally exited the bathroom. Yvonne had changed the sheets while you were washing up by yourself and found yourself immensely grateful to the woman. She plopped you back into the hospital bed and started to arrange your IV thing next to your bed. You're a lifesaver, Yvonne. I mean, I'm sure you already know that since it's your little job, but I don't know what I would have done without you. She looked over to you with a playful, smug smile. I'll be here if you need a life saving anytime. She hands you a hairbrush and hair tie and exits the room, like she hadn't just casually pieced all your sanity and smushed them together. As you began the long, arduous task of brushing your hair with a broken hand and IV, you tried to look into yourself, checking with your feelings on everything that happened. It had started from a dream, which clearly birthed that painting, but since being at the hospital, you haven't had a single nightmare. You tried to pinpoint what seemed to be bothering you deep inside. Logically, being thrown into another world or universe, or whatever, would shake most people to their core. It was certainly disconcerting. Were the threads between different realities so sparse and transversible? It made you feel a little bit untethered to know at any moment some painting could send you plummeting from a dangerous height. But is that really possible? If anything, you would say your dream was the reason for all of this. And you had created a painting with your own two hands, whether conscious or not. So maybe the connection between worlds wasn't so tenuous for everyone. Maybe it was just you. Clearly, you had some connection to this place. However, whatever it was, you were going to figure it out. But you weren't holding out much hope for a way to get back home. The universe was too vast and wide for you to begin to think of a way back home. Out of all the people on the earth who could fall into another dimension, you could admit that you were a pretty good candidate. You honestly weren't too attached to your home. It had often made you sad, made you feel out of place. In this situation, which was probably saving you a lot of trouble, no reason to cry over spilt milk and all that. What seemed to really bother you was the boys' brigade, meeting people who were supposed to be fictional as weird as fuck. If, for argument's sake, I really am an incarnation of MC, that still doesn't mean they really know me. The way they approached the whole conversation had set you on edge. You could feel the connection to them, a familiarity, but that doesn't make you theirs. Not yet. You would never entertain an entitled attitude to your personhood. Even if you felt that entitlement towards them, you wouldn't act on that because that's how civilized people act. We don't truly know one another. You knew them from a video game created to cater to women's fantasies, for Christ's sake. You sighed as you finished brushing your hair and decided to braid it. Best way to keep it neat and not damage your hair. You began braiding it over your shoulder. Since you only had one barely useful arm, a knock sounded at the door. "Come in," you said without thinking. In came the last person you were expecting. Okay, so we are now done. It's done. Chapter 3, done. Alright, if you want to see more of this, you know what to do.